Flip, 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 Flip Weekly.
Hello and welcome to Flip Weekly's podcast. My name is Matt, I am your host, and this is a podcast all about reselling. We go to thrift stores, we go to garage sales, we find things on Facebook Marketplace, and we resell them. Now, just in the past 7 days, I've been able to find over $5,000 worth of rare books. That's right, $5,000. Not $500, $5,000. You know, we've got vintage Lego books, we have vampire books, we have Japanese manga. Man, we've hit the mother load. We aren't in the volume game. You know, here at Flip Weekly, we always try and find items that are worth at least $100, or at least listings that are worth $100 or more. You know what? The total number of listings for this haul is under 20. Now just do the maths on that. What is the average listed price and how do we get to $5,000 in value? It's honestly, it blows my mind the amount of high quality books that we've been able to source this week from thrift stores and Facebook Marketplace. It was like that video of Michael Jackson inside the department store where he's walking around saying, I'll take this, I'll take that, I'll take that. That was me in thrift stores where every single book I seemingly picked up was worth over $100. If you've been ignoring books, you won't by the end of this podcast. I guarantee it. Let's just jump into it. And I will remind you, there is other cool stuff in this podcast besides books. We have items listed up for hundreds of dollars that we're able to find in the wild. So I'm going to go through what I bought, including this amazing $5,000 book haul. I'm going to go through everything that's sold this week, hundreds of dollars worth of sales too. You know, individual items selling for over $100. So let's just get into it. So the week started off really well. I went into a Savers thrift store and it felt like all of this stock had just been put out and I was like overstimulated, right? There was all of these goodies on the shelf and I honestly felt like a kid in a candy store. I felt like Michael Jackson. I felt like everything I was seeing in the book section was right for my picking. That is completely different than the rest of the thrift store, right? You go into the clothes, homewares, media, DVDs. I wasn't seeing these $100 bangers. But in the book section where everyone seemingly overlooks, I was in the book section Thursday late at night, not late at night, I think it was like 6 p.m. by myself, no one else around, and I just had this place to myself, man. I was just having so much fun. Everywhere I looked, I could see gold. Like I could see eBay ka-chings. I was in a flow state, man. All of these valuable books, they just pointed themselves out, and it started in the young adult rack. Now, we were able to find 5 volumes of Lost in Spaces magazine. Now, these were in between the Guinness World Records, all those children's encyclopedias that nobody's ever going to pick up, they're worth no money. And these magazines were all first printings from 1986, and they were only $4 a pop. Now, this magazine, it was based on the TV show Lost in Space, that aired from 1965 to 1968. It was well before my time, although in retrospect, Lost in Space was one of the first movies I saw in a cinema. They had a movie that was re-released in 1998. I remember going to see it, one of the very first movies I saw. It was either that or Flubber, which was the first movie I saw in the cinema. But as you can imagine, the plot closely resembles the name of the show. These people are lost in space, rebooted multiple times. There was that movie in 98. They did another TV series in 2018. And I know just from my research that the original show didn't last long. But back then, found success. There was syndications, there was reruns. Eventually it led to a long-term following. It's sci-fi. People are going to love this sort of stuff. So these specific magazines, these Lost in Space files, they were basically reference guides, right? They were reference guides mixed with like magazine style comics. Now they're hard to find and they can fetch a lot of money. You know, I'm looking at sold comps on eBay right now. There's a lot of 2 that sold in May, $55. That's just 2 magazines. There was a lot of 4 that sold for $127. Now I found 5 of these things, but annoyingly, the volumes were volume 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. There was only 6 of these ever made, and I'm missing volume 3. I kept looking. Volume 3 was nowhere to be found. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, not to worry. we can still list these up for $149.95 just for a couple of Lost in Space magazines. Just for a couple of magazines. You open these things up, they don't look like they're going to be worth a lot of money. Although, I mean, to be fair, the front covers, they have like these little space themes. They have the robots. They have like all these little stars and like images of the original show on the front cover. So to me, when I look at them, I see value. I guess everyone else just saw it's a magazine. Let's list it up, or let's chuck it on the rack for a couple of bucks. It mustn't be worth that much money. No, it is. I bought them all, listed them up for $149.95. I'm sure they're going to sell because there is very, very few of these on the market. Now we're staying in savers, right? And I'm going to tell you about even more books that I was able to find on Marketplace, but right now we're in the thrift store. And we go from the young adult section, we go to the collectible section. Now this collectible section, it's not really collectible, right? It's usually filled with old non-collectible books and they're in terrible condition. You know, if it's falling apart, savers are going to put it on this collectible rack. And what I was able to find for $2.49 each, a set of 4 Fabuland children's books from 1983. Now, I might be mispronouncing that name, but Fabuland, I think I've just said it differently. Fabuland, shall we just keep pronouncing it differently? Fabuland, they were a Lego IP. They belonged to Lego. Lego created this. It was aimed at young kids. They were too old for Lego's Duplo line. They were too young for regular Lego. So Lego created the Fabuland toys. It's going to get old very quickly. They created these toys, and it was the first of their IPs to go into books. They went into clothes, they went into TV. And so I found 4 of these things. Each book, it was your standard first edition. All of them were hardcover. They were priced at $2.49. And in the store, they looked to be in pretty rough shape. You know, they had dirt on them, they had random markings, a spine or two was sort of breaking. But once I got these home and I gave them a bit of a clean, they turned out quite nice. You know, definitely good enough to give to, a kid to destroy even more. But we have the 4 books. We have Henry's Night Out, Morty's New Job, Catherine Cat's Birthday, and Edward's Skyscraper. Now, doing a bit of research on this, there was one YouTube video that I saw talking about Henry's night out, and they described his night out as a very, very weird night out. So I'm looking forward to giving that a bit of a read to see just exactly what Henry got up to on his night out, but we will see. I mean, the front cover has what looks to be a postman delivering I guess another kid, because these are like humans represented as animals, and there's a dog delivering the post with what looks to be like a horse in his backpack. That's a bit weird, right? It seems like human trafficking, but these books, especially Morty's New Job, that seems to be the most popular. It has sold listings around the $50 mark just for that one book. Now, the other books, they're not as well represented in the active or sold listings, but with all 4 books shown on the back cover, I feel like it's an opportunity to sell these as a complete set of 4. And the market for vintage Lego, it's huge. So the question that I need to posit to the eBay community, to people looking these up, is does it translate over to children's books? Despite these books not being in excellent condition, I still think we can get $100 as a bundle. And you know what? Stick around to the end, and I'm going to have a read of this guy's night out, and I'm going to tell you exactly why it's weird, or if that YouTuber was lying. I haven't read it yet, but we're going to go through it. We'll just leave that to the end, because at this point in time, I'm in savers. I'm starting to get a bit of a bundle. Like, this is rare. I'm usually walking out of there with nothing. I always think like these staff that see me there all the time, they must wonder what I am doing, going in there all the time, spending a bit of time in there, and then leaving with nothing. Like, what is this dude doing? Although, to be fair, they don't give a about me. Anyway, I'm getting a bit of a bundle. I'm not walking out empty-handed. And I pivot to the horror, do a 180. Horror's right behind me. And I'm finding these books mostly based on vibes, right? I'm in horror, and I see this little unassuming paperback book. this little red thing. It has a vampire on the front. They look to be posh vampires. Okay, that's a bit unusual. So I pull it out, very small. It's like a pocketbook. It's called The Reluctant Vampire by Eric Morecambe. Now this triggered something within me for some reason. You know, simple pocketbook. It's a paperback, $3.49. It has that New Yorker style comic on the front, you know, the illustration, comic illustration. And it's in decent condition for something that appears to be from the 80s. And I can tell it's from the 80s because I turned over and it has a picture of the author on the back of it. And I'm like, yeah, this dude, this is not a modern haircut. This isn't modern dress. This is definitely like an 80s photo shoot headshot. So I check out eBay's active and sold listings for this book, and I'm shocked, man. Like, taking a closer look at this book was definitely worth taking my hands out of my pockets for a few minutes, right? I'm looking at sold listings right now. $120. That was in May. That was not that long ago, and that was within Australia. I can see UK ones, $82, another UK, $72. This is 100% vibes only, man. Like, I'm not sitting in the thrift store and scanning every single book. This is just seeing a spine, seeing a cover, being a bit inquisitive, having some curiosity, and just trusting your gut. You know, I've been doing this for a while. I feel like I can just spot these little gold nuggets, right? So we have that most recent sale within Australia, $120. All the other sold listings backing that price up. We have 4 active, 4 sold, great sell-through rate. And it must be a decent read given the sale prices. Like, it appears to be a vampire comedy. I look it up online. The synopsis tells us that the protagonist isn't a fan of blood, but prefers chips and a small glass of red. Now, you dig a bit deeper, and we can see the average sale price might be due to the fact it's being adapted into a mini-series on the BBC set to air later this year. The fact we've got a television show coming up in a few months means that interest, intrigue, it's all going to rise. The book is most likely going to sell for full price. I might be jinxing myself by putting it out there, but knock on a wooden stake, we can turn $3.49 into $100. Now, you might be adding all this up and you're thinking, well, we're a fair distance away from that $5,000 value that you were able to source this week. That's true, but now we head over to Facebook Marketplace. Now, I've told you many times before how I get deals on Facebook Marketplace. I'm not going to repeat myself. Go back and find that podcast episode or read about it at flipweekly.com, because weekends, man, weekends on Facebook Marketplace, oh, they're a gold mine. They're an absolute gold mine. Absolute gold mine. You know, the hardest part isn't finding these deals. It isn't finding good deals. They're posted constantly on the weekend as deciding which one you want to jump onto. You know, I see a good deal. I'm like, okay, I can go out and buy this for $50, flip it for $200. It'll be a quick flip. I see another one, you know, 100 into 400. And you're like, which one do I jump on? You know, your expectations getting higher and higher. Because once you commit to a deal, you usually can only get 1, maybe 2 in a day, just based on the driving, the processing. You know, when you're driving, you're not scrolling through Facebook Marketplace. Well, you shouldn't be. It's illegal. Although the amount of people I see on their phones now when I'm stopped at traffic lights, they're watching TikTok, they're watching Instagram Reels. Focus on the road, man. Like, do you need to be entertained with a video as you're driving? Just look out the window. I mean, look out the windscreen, focus, but can anybody not look at their phone for, you know, a bloody 25, 30-minute car ride? It's very scary, man. Very scary. So you can't be looking at Facebook Marketplace as you're driving. So you need to commit to something big. And that's what happened on Saturday morning. I jumped at a deal that was going to more than triple my money, but I was not prepared for what happened after we exchanged a few messages. I exchanged a few messages with this seller. So I saw this listing for a manga. Now, the manga was in English. It was series 1 to 21, but it was missing 2 books. It was listed like 15 minutes ago. It was a manga, I'm going to mispronounce this, called Kari Kano. If I just read it phonetically, it's like Care Kano. $50. It's basically the full set of that Japanese manga. And when you're buying manga, you want it to be in the English language. You want it to be out of print. You want it to be a full set, and you want it to be popular enough to warrant a high selling price. And this manga series ticked all of those boxes. Kari Kano, Care Kano, Kari Kin. I don't know how it's pronounced. There's so few available within Australia. So people are adding on their Australia tax when they're selling this, and they're aiming very high. I'm looking at sold listings, not here in Australia, but in the US, for a full set for $350. Another one for $320. I can see active listings of just one volume 1 to 3, which is the all-in-one omnibus, for $120 within Australia. Somebody else is trying to get $211 for set 1 to 17. Now, I agree to pay $50 for this bundle. I'm thinking it's going to be at least $300 that I can list these up for. And then she sends me a message saying, and I quote, "I'm selling others too if you're interested. To be honest, I'm just going through my stuff now and deciding what I want to sell." Now, this is ka-chings in my eyes. So as she's saying this to me, I'm just about to walk out the door, man. But I'm like, okay, I want to quickly check to see if she's listing these up on Marketplace, because I don't want her to do that. If I'm getting this deal, I want to be able to get it there and then without it being listed up. I want first choice. So I go on her Marketplace profile and she's actively listing. I can see she's just listed up something called GTO The Early Years plus 14 Days in Shonen for $60. I can see that $60 listing. It's manga. I'm just about to go out the door. So I race back to my computer. I look it up on eBay. My jaw drops. I'm not kidding, man. It drops. I can see somebody has, and look, these are active listings. This is a very, very rare manga. I can see active listings for volume 8, just volume 8. Okay. She's posted the whole set, 1 to 15, plus a whole bunch of others. Volume 8 is on eBay, brand new, for $2,377. Now, you might be thinking, well, Matt, yours isn't brand new. You can't match that listing. You're not going to get $2,377 for this that you're going to buy. Plus, it's an active listing. It's not a sold listing. It's very, very true. You would be right. But seeing that as the very first thing, as you're about to walk out the door for a bundle of items that are $60, if that is listed up for $2,377, what is the rest worth? I quickly jump onto solds. I can see eight books. It's not volume 1 to 8. It's not volume, 10 to 20, 10 to whatever. It's just 8 volumes. They sold in the UK for $600, just 8 of them. I can see another listing for just volume 10 for $633. This one's pre-owned. People are trying to get big money for this. They have so many people watching them. So that is all. That's all I need, right? That's all I need. I say to her, mark them as pending. I'll take them to. She does that. And I'm leaving that very second because I'm interested to see what else there is. I drive out there. It's not very far from me. I pull up in what feels like Sydney's thinnest street and I'm invited inside. Now, 2 things can happen when you're invited inside during a Facebook Marketplace pickup. I've never had the first one, an obvious murder. I haven't been brutally murdered from a Facebook Marketplace pickup before. The second thing you can do is you can essentially walk into your very own private garage sale. And it was that. It was the latter. I wonder if anything will ever happen to me with a Facebook Marketplace pickup one day, or like a sale, because I'm very open to doing, potential murderous pickups late at night. So, man, I hope it doesn't happen. Obviously, I hope it doesn't happen. It wouldn't surprise me if it does. This is going to come back to bite me, right? Man predicted own murder. Get some views from it. Anyway, I walk inside and all I can see is a dining room table stacked tall with some of what I now know, but didn't at the time, some of the rarest and most valuable manga known to man, or at least known to this man. Now, I didn't know individual values. I'm not going to start searching eBay in front of this person. We've already agreed on $100 for the original Kaori Kano and the GTO listings. So now it's the part where I say, I'll take them all and we have to agree on a price. Now, when I say stacked full, there is bundles of these. There are stacks of maybe 15 to 20 books and about 10 to 12 different stacks of them. All different. I don't recognize any of them. I don't see the ones you see in thrift stores, like My Hero Academia. I don't see Ando's E-Boy. I don't really see any that I recognize. I see Cardcaptor Sakura, which I've heard of before. I don't really know what it's about. I swear I've bought and sold that Kari Kano before, but I'm not 100%. I just know looking at them, there's some titles here that are a bit creepy. You know, they give me creep vibes, even though this was like probably a girl my age, so it doesn't sound as creepy if she's buying them, but somebody like me buying these, like one of them was like Girls High School. And I feel like that's a bit on the nose considering most manga seems to be, and look, this is a very generalized, stereotypical observation. Most of it seems to be, you know, these scantily clad bikini women or girls, and the sex aspect of it is sort of hidden behind, oh no, it's got an actual plot. You know, there's superpowers and things that they do, but this one was just called Girls High School. It just feels like they just didn't put any sort of effort into hiding the fact of, yeah, this is what it is. You know, come buy it. You know what you're getting into. So there's some that are a bit creepy. Never heard of them, but it doesn't matter. We've agreed on $100 for the original one. If I'm taking them all, we need to find out what we're going to be doing. So I know, or I've got a hunch that I've got a decent return on the bundles so far, especially that GTO if it turns out to be, you know, a home run like I expect it to. The seller suggests to me $50 per stack, and you add up all the stacks, it's $600. It's a lot of money for books, especially when you don't know too much about them. They could all be duds. So I counted with $500. I say an even $500, and just like that, I've got my own little manga library. Now, just a quick small side note. It must be unusual for a seller to be selling like their collection to somebody like me who insists he doesn't want to know what he's buying. You know, she was like, I could go through all of them. You know, I got this on video too. I asked if I could film because I've been filming some marketplace pickups because I want to do something more with YouTube, but I haven't decided what yet. So I've just been filming, constantly getting footage to see eventually what we can do. So all of this is on camera that you can eventually watch. But it's just, I said to her, like, it's a fun surprise for when you get home. But to her, it's like, you're spending $500 on something and you don't want to know what it is. Do you even know what you're buying? I'm just like, I don't want it to get ruined. You know, I want to get, it's like Christmas, man. You go home, you look it up, you see things that look interesting. I mean, I shouldn't say look interesting because this stuff to me, far from interesting. I just don't want to get myself in hot water by saying, yeah, the Girls High School looks interesting. No. I mean, in a sense of it's worth money. So I pack it all away, try not to look too much. I can imagine getting flushed in the face if I see like putting goddamn Girls High School in the bag. They're in bikinis. I'd feel like even more of a creep, man. But it takes 4 bags, 2 trips, get everything back in the car, and I'm keen to do some research once I get home. If you want to see photos of the stack, go to flipweekly.com. You can see each individual book there. You'll be able to see it. If you're listening on YouTube, you'll be able to see the thumbnail with some of the books in there. There's also a few DVDs and a little like talking action figure. I'll get to that a bit later. But from this haul, this $500 haul, we have a total of 12 listings and the average cost obviously being $40. And let me tell you, the return, it's off the charts. Again, you will know from listening to Flip Weekly, we aren't turning $5 into $10. We aren't shipping something off that's worth $15. This is the big boys reselling, right? This is the big boy reselling. We're selling things for over $100. We are turning our $500 investment into at least $5,000. Where do you get your reselling news? There is not many places where you're going to be hearing about this sort of return. Now I'm going to tell you all of the titles. I'm going to tell you their listings. I'm going to tell you their value. But first, just a tiny bit of information about what we have, because majority, if not all, of these books are out of print. That means they're no longer being produced. Why? A myriad of reasons, right? Some of these books are made by small companies. Just think of independent books. Somebody that publishes, it does it with a small, publishing company. 15, 20 years down the track, they go bankrupt. No one's buying their books. The IP dies with the founder. There's just so many different reasons for why they're not being produced. But that doesn't mean that there's no demand. Manga, like so many other different industries, they can gain fans and followers years after they were first introduced to the world. And with limited copies out in the wild, prices are driven very, very high. Like take GTO, the early years, for example. I was able to get 1 to 15 in this bundle, and then I went over to the GTO subreddit. There is a consistent saying on that subreddit, and it's that volume 8 of this series, it's near impossible to get. And I'm not kidding, near impossible. Somebody asked a question on that subreddit saying, what's the easiest way to start collecting GTO the early years? And the comments, man, they just made me so excited. They had my ears pricked up, because every single person in the comment section was basically saying, there is no easy way. I'm going to quote 2 Redditors right now. The first person said, being upfront, there is no easy way. What you'll need is patience if you want those books. Volume 8, that's the white whale of GTO. It rarely ever shows up, maybe once a year. Somebody else said, there ain't. They all out of print and very hard to find. If you do come across some are 300 USD plus. I've only got 1 to 4, 11 to 15. Now this is just a single book in this 12 listing bundle that we're able to get. Just a single book, man. A single book. I'm being upfront with you right now. These books are going to sell for a lot of money. A lot of money. I'm going to go through the titles now. I'm going to tell you their values. And I'm doing it with a massive grin on my face. I'm going to start from around the bottom and work our way up. So first off, we have Cardcaptor Sakura Volume 1 to 4 listed up for $200. We have Chobert's Omnibus Book 1 and 2, $110. We have High School Girls Volume 1 to 9, $200. We have Tokyo Mew Mew and Tokyo Mew Mew a la mode. That is a real name of a book. $200. Blood Plus Volumes 1 to 5, $100. We have Blood Plus Part 1 DVD box set for $300. We have the Toynami Talking Chobert's Sumo Mo, $200. We have Strawberry 100% for $500. We have Kari Kano, $350. We have GTO Great Teacher Onizuka, $800. We have the final one, GTO The Early Years, $2,500. Total listed value, $5,460. Tell a lie. You'll notice that I only read out 11 listings. There was some bulk from that deal that I needed to get rid of. And I listed those up on Marketplace very cheap. They were all like under $50. And look, there was some decent value there. There was, some Adventure Time books. They were around $50 each. We had a DVD series called Agent Osuma, which was $50. We had Chobert's 4 to 6, $50. Blah, blah, blah. I'd estimate like $200, $250 worth of listings, but I didn't want to deal with that. I listed them all up on Facebook Marketplace for $50. They were gone a few hours later. And there was one bundle that I didn't list up on eBay just yet. There was 9 books in the series, and there's actually an active eBay auction right now for these books. GTO 14 Days in Shonen, Volume 1 to 9. The auction is $297. No bids just yet. Ends in 3 days. The sold data, it's sort of hard to go off, but the auction is going to give me a good indication of what I should list those for. The sold data is showing, 3 of these books have sold for $80. Volume 3 sold for $100. So I'll just wait that auction out. But there's another $300 on top, potentially, that we didn't even get through. But man, if that GTO the early years sells for full asking price, $2,500, we are going to exceed our greatest flip of all time. I'm not counting the stack just yet, but I am very excited. So what's the lesson here besides the fact that you need to be tuning into Flip Weekly because there's the best deals. We have the best deals. We have the best deals. Look, the lesson. Manga book bundles on Facebook Marketplace, if you can find them for $50, they're usually underpriced, right? And if there's one bundle, there may be more. And collectors are going to pay a lot of money for these out-of-print books. And if you find full sets, you can make thousands of dollars. Yeah, I can't believe that. $500 into probably like 5,700, 5,600. That's all if they sell for full price. But even if they don't, we are going to make at least like $5,000 from this deal, just from a bunch of books. GTO the early years, $2,500. There's nobody else that is selling this full set, this complete set. I did my research into this book, and people are making Instagram reels, like videos on Instagram saying, I'm looking for this book series. Internet, do your thing. Please get in touch with me if you can find it. This is one of the hardest manga series to find. And we were able to find it for bloody, what ended up being like $40. Like, I mean, $50 we agreed on when it all comes out in the wash after all those listings, about $40. And we've listed it up for $2,500. This would beat the Sonic deal. We found Sonic, remember? 60 into, I can't even remember what it is now, like 1,600. This would be 40. I'm going to say 40. I'm going to lock in 40 because it's what I'm going to remember. 40 into $2,500. Absolute insanity. Insanity, man. I watch some YouTube resellers that are supposed to be into books, never finding anything great. And here we are in 1 week, having sourced $5,000 worth of books in a single week. Started out in savers, just $100 book, $100 book, $100 book. Then Facebook Marketplace. We're just absolutely crushing it. Absolutely crushing it, man. You got to pat yourself on the back when you have a win because no one else is going to. Every single week here at Flip Weekly, we are trying to find amazing deals. Rare, interesting, unique items. Not a pair of jeans, not a Bad Santa DVD you're going to sell for $5. $2,500. Anyway, there were a couple other finds for the week that weren't books. A few non-book related items. I was walking out of Savers and I decided to do a walk by the front desk, which I never really do. I don't like shopping like that. If there's one way people like shopping, it's not from looking at items very far away. You can't see the prices. You can't see what's on sale. You barely can see what the item is. The fact there aren't binoculars on these front desks, it continues to baffle me. I had to get my phone out and zoom in on the prices, take a photo so I can see what some of these things are. But here's the thing. I'm not one to spend time looking at this stuff. It's behind a desk. If it's behind glass, in most cases, it's had time dedicated to researching it, seeing what it's worth. I could see that there was a Yu-Gi-Oh! And a Skylanders action figure behind the counter, fully in box, looked brand new. They were priced exactly on eBay prices, but there was one thing behind the counter that I thought was a bit interesting. It was something called a Metabots. This is just an action figure of a character called Rokushu. Man, there's so much Japanese names in this episode. I figured it's a foreign toy. I thought maybe it was priced incorrectly because it's harder to research. If it's a foreign toy, you're going to bank on your ability to research items better than a staff member at a thrift store. And I was right to a degree because I can see active listings for this toy for $476, 14 people watching. There was only 2 active listings on eBay worldwide, so I thought, well, I'll buy this for $125. Maybe I can get a local sale. Marketplace $250, double your money. eBay, around that $350 mark. So I did. I bought that. My energy level sort of dipped talking about this because I'm on a high from the books, and we're still going to turn like $125 purchase into $350, $400. That's nothing compared to GTO. That's insane. But in a different Savers, there was another mishap, right? There was staff that looked over another sealed toy because the way it presented itself, it was like gimmicky and old, right? So you cannot make the same mistakes. Now, what I found was something called a scanner's races. Anytime you see one of the handheld gaming toys from the early 2000s, you should get excited. I got excited. You know, in the past, I've sold one of those factory sealed Sudokus, you know, the electronic handheld Sudokus. I sold that for a lot of money. This week, I found the scanner's races by the company Radica, $4.49. Now, this is a handheld gaming video game thing. $4.49. Kids today, they're going to laugh at it. They're going to scoff at it. But back in the year 2000, when this was first released, it was probably the envy of every kid, right? You'd beg your parents to buy you one, and then you'd spend the next few weeks of your life scanning every single barcode in your house, because that's how this game worked. You'd scan things, you'd be able to unlock cars, and then each unique barcode would give you something different. So if you scan the same barcode twice, you might be put in a timeout, or whatever the game's version of a timeout would be. But then you race your car, race against friends, you can hook them up. It's sort of like a handheld, like it honestly looks like a barcode scanner, but with, you know, some colors and logos to make kids excited about it. You know, link up with your friends, verse them with your barcode car. You know, it is that handheld video game powered by barcodes and AAA batteries. I guess the concept in hindsight is pretty cool, you know, because there's barcodes everywhere. They're all unique. I used to have a client that called himself the barcode king, and his entire business was just barcodes. So I've learned a lot about barcodes in the past, probably, 3 years. And you can do a deep dive on this subject and find out a lot of information about barcodes, especially within Australia. But before I tell you about the sold listings, and the sold listings are absolutely crazy for this thing, it's important to remember that not all of these handheld video game things inside the blister packaging are worth the same, because if it's by a no-name brand, and I found one this week by Techno Source, never heard of this brand. It was called like the Ultimate Soccer Cup. It's like, it looked like a video game controller. It had a mini LCD screen on it, and I guess you're playing soccer. Those no-name brands, they're not worth anything. But if you find the big name brands, if you find the Radicas, if you find the Hasbros, the bigger the brand, the better their distribution, the more that the potential buyers are going to fawn over it, because there's nostalgia there. That means big money. Right now, there are 5 active listings, 4 sold listings. Of the active listings, 3 are brand new and sealed, which is what I have. Total of 18 watches across that. Average listed price of $244. I'm looking at sold listings here, $191.50 brand new. Pre-owned, $100. I've gone ahead and listed this $4.49 find up for $199.95. That should be $4.50 into $200. Yes, there is still money to be made in thrift stores. Don't let anyone tell you differently. And finally, the week would not be complete without a marketplace video game find. I'm not focused entirely on video games. If they fall into my lap, I'm going to buy them. If they're close by, if they're a good deal, I'll buy them. It brings me some joy. And so I saw a listing over the weekend for an Xbox One X 1 terabyte, and the price made me think that they left off a zero, because it was listed up for $30. This was complete in box. I sent through a message, even though I thought she was going to say, no, it's not $30, it's $300. What are you, insane? I sent the message through. The price was right, $30. I agreed to pick it up the next day, which is sort of unusual for video games, because most people are like, well, I want it gone today, but I was able to get it the next day. It was very, very strange. An unusual interaction for video games. So the seller just told me, this belonged to an old roommate of mine, that she doesn't, and I quote, doesn't Xbox. But yeah, it had barely been played. It was too easy, man. I'm looking at sold comps here, $335, $340. Like most video game consoles, man, the sell-through rate is high. You get more money from it being boxed. And when I opened this up to test it out, it had a copy of Red Dead Redemption 2 stuffed inside. So that's a good game. It's worth, it's not worth much money, but it's a good game. It's going to make the listing more attractive. You'd rather buy a Xbox bundle with Red Dead Redemption 2 than, you know, a bunch of FIFA games, because you know somebody's just offloading their crap. So yeah, I listed that up for $350. That would be $30 into $350. Facebook Marketplace, a gold mine. Thrift stores, a gold mine. Garage sales, haven't been to one for a while, but, you know, we're still doing okay. So that's everything that I bought. And yeah, we did okay for the week. Shall we go through what we sold? Let's just jump into what we sold. I think I've been rambling for a while. I'll let you go soon. Don't forget, I will be seeing what that guy's weekend was like. What was it called? Let me quickly check. What was this guy's name? I mean, what was his teddy bear's name? He was an animal. What is it? More Henry's Night Out. We need to see what Henry got up to. You know, the fact that people are saying he had a very unusual night out and it looks like human traffic on the front cover, we need to see what he got up to. So I'll go through that later. We need to go through what I sold. Now, this first sale is a bit funny because I always talk about not wanting to sell boring items. You know, selling jeans I find boring. I roll my eyes at Thomas the Tank Engine now. It's just so boring. But if you've been with me so far, if you had to endure me watching Great British Railway Journeys for a full 30 minutes earlier on, like in Flip Weekly's podcast live, if you've been through all of that, you're gonna love this next sale because it may be the most boring sale of all time, or at least top 5. I picked this up just 23 days ago. I paid $6 in a Vinnie's. We have sold a HP business calculator for $120. $120. That's right, a calculator. Now, just to give you some more boring facts about it, HP 19B Business Consultant 2, completely boxed, full with all of the inserts, and untested. That's the thing, man. This calculator may not work, which means the person who has spent $120 on this thing is like, I don't care if it works. I just need this calculator in my life. $120. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I get messages from people sending photos of some of their sales being like what's going on. I got one from Foulmouth Flipper the other day saying, I thought we're in a recession, you know, showing some of his most outrageous sales where people are spending like $80 for a plush toy. I thought we were in a recession too, because somebody spent $120 on a calculator that may not work because they wanted this thing in their life. I don't get it. Inside of it had a magazine, it had an order form, had a manual. Calculator people just went nuts for it. I don't know why. It's from the 80s, I think, or early 90s. They must just love their calculators. $120. I don't know. Anyway, $120 for that. We move on to another sale, which was a video game, Silent Hill 3. Picked this up for $8. It has sold for $240. That's a lot of money just for a video game. You know Silent Hill goes crazy though. PlayStation 1, I'm pretty sure there's a $400 PlayStation 1 Silent Hill video game. PlayStation 2, they're in the hundreds. I think Xbox, not so much. But anytime you find Silent Hill as a video game, man, you're wanting to buy it. Especially if it's as cheap as this, $8. I got this on a marketplace pickup. So yeah, $240 for that. And then another sale, if you follow Flip Weekly on Instagram, you would see that this sale was a bit unusual. Not so much the price, but because of a message that I received from the buyer. Now, I bought a Pokemon DVD Pokedex book. So it's like it's a DVD set, right? But it's in the shape of a Pokedex. I got it a long time ago. I got 2 of these things at the time from Vinnie's. One was brand new and sealed, which went very quickly. The fact that this one was pre-owned, it sat around for a year, and I didn't get rid of it in my Coles because it was always going to be worth a bit of money. I think I originally listed up for $150. It is sold today after an offer, after a sale, for $72. It's not the best sale, doesn't meet our $100 minimum, but it's big and bulky, sat around for a year. I was happy to let it go for $72. But the buyer, you know, first of all asked me about the condition of the box and if I could accept his lowest asking price. You know, he said, would you accept $60 so I can pay right now, smiley face. And I wrote, sorry mate, currently running a 20% off sale, so this is the best price. It's got free shipping on it, which is a killer. And you're right, good point. I just bought it instantly. Please, can you write something nice about me on a note and put it in the package too? And I'm just thinking, like, you want me to write something nice about you and put it on a note? Like, what are you doing? Why? This just reeks of when people were subjecting Domino's drivers to write jokes or draw something on the lid of the pizza boxes. From when was that? 10 years ago? Like, it's bad enough that you're lowballing me and you waited to buy this item during a sale, but now you're asking me to write something nice about you on a note. I don't know you, bro. Like, my literal only interaction with you was when you seemed overly concerned about the condition of the box that houses DVDs, and then you lowballed me with a smiley face too. You had the balls to put the smiley face on, so I had no idea. I don't want to not put something in there and potentially get negative feedback or an angry, buyer. And I also didn't know if this was like his Make-A-Wish, so I chucked it on Instagram and asked, what did I do here? What did I do? I don't know what to put in here. The general consensus from people seemed to be, draw a little Pokemon and write like a poem or write something nice. So, sounds simple enough, except I'm not a very good drawer. And I drew Pikachu and he does not look very good. He has a gigantic forehead. He has like a Walter Goggins forehead, right? And I just wrote on the left, roses are red, violets are blue. Pikachu says, I choose you. So he ends up receiving the package. He didn't say anything about the note. He said that it could have used more bubble wrap because the edges got a bit like dinged up. Or he said banged up, actually. I'm thinking, are you kidding me, man? I put effort. I literally went to Officeworks and bought $2 texters because Pikachu needed to be colored in yellow and he needed red cheeks. And you're not even going to mention my attempt at drawing Pikachu? How dare you, man? I'm half expecting to get a negative feedback because this guy wanted extra bubble wrap on this thing. The shipping alone was like $20. I don't think I would be making money on this. The cost of goods goes up when I go out and buy $2 Officeworks texters, drawing Pikachu in Australia Post like a weirdo. Maybe he just was embarrassed for me. He thought, like, you thought my life was bad. This is how you draw? Like, he needed to ask a random stranger on eBay to make him feel better. And I might have made his life worse. Anyway, moving on. I've noticed a trend. A trend, right? And the trend is that we never just have one Polly Pocket sale. If one sells, it's like the dominoes fall. We had not one, not two, not three, but we've had 6 Polly Pockets sell in the span of 72 hours this week. We had, I'm just going to run through the names and the prices real quick for you. Cozy Cottage, $64. Summer House, $50 on Marketplace. The first one was eBay. Nursery School, Marketplace, $80. Grandma's Cottage, Marketplace, $80. Stable on the Go, eBay, $45. Bright Dinner Party, eBay, $95. We've had $400 worth of Polly Pockets out the door. I've told you to steal this category from me because I do not want to be buying Polly Pockets, too much in the future, because it sounds like we've sold a lot of them, which we have, but to put it into context, like, you don't know how many I have remaining here. Like, I have enough confidence to say that no dude in Sydney has more Polly Pockets than me. Eventually, that confidence is going to whittle down just a bit. They're evaporating. They're going. But I'm not complaining because we are selling them. And when they're selling for like close to $100, like they're good sales. Next sale, we love our $100 plus book sales. We have sold a 1979 Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide for $120 on eBay. Now, this was a first edition. It's sold in under 90 days for full asking price. Now, I found this in Vinnie's and they price it up at $15. And whilst I ignore, your modern day D&D guidebooks, these older ones are well worth picking up. If you want to see a photo of that, go to flipweekly.com. Just compare it to the modern day ones. You'll be able to tell with the artwork that it is older. Now, the next sale I'm just going to include, so you know that we've been able to get rid of the bulk from that anime, manga, DVD, book bundle thing that we got from Marketplace. The big pickup. I got the bulk chucked it on Marketplace for $50. I couldn't be bothered selling it individually. I listed up on Marketplace at 4 p.m. At 7 p.m., somebody in the area had come around to buy it. And like I said before, if you take a closer look at the titles, they're all worth buying if you want to turn a couple bucks into like 20, 50. But here at Flip Weekly, we are only after $100 plus sort of stuff. You know, there was Adventure Time, there was an anime DVD called Elfen Lied, there's Girls High on DVD, there's Chobits on DVD, there's that Argent to Somona, whatever, box set DVD, $250 worth of value, but we're not going to bother with it. The person that picked it up, I think, is also a reseller from the area, so it's cool that somebody, you know, like me, would be able to make some money from it. Now that just about wraps up the week. Make sure you stay tuned for after the jingle at the end, where I will be going through the dude's night out, the Lego dude's night out. I'm just going to read it to you. Why not? I'll do that later. I might have a few drinks and I'll do that. But look, the week is wrapped up. It's been a big one. I can't believe that one of our listings can go from $40 into a possible $2,500. Like, that's surreal, man. It's surreal. But we also can't forget that we were expecting $2,500 from the Wiggles, the TV. And it ended up selling for, what was it, $1,750? So, you know, the sales happen, the offers happen, negotiations, all of that can reduce our eventual sale price. But right now, it's safe to say we are crushing our book sourcing. And what's to come next week? Who knows? But we're going to find out together. Thank you again for listening. My name is Matt. Stick around for a book reading. Have a great week. I'll see you next week.
Flip, 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 flip. Flip Weekly.
Oh my God, what do we have here? We have the Late Night Flip Weekly Book Club. This is the first edition Fabuland Henry's Night Out that we're going to be going through. It is late on a Wednesday night. The drink of choice is Jameson, so excuse any sort of fumbling, any sort of anything that delays us from getting through this book. It is not long. I'm pretty sure this is like 20 pages. And it has been described as being very weird. Like, Henry's Night Out is a very weird book. So stick around if you want to basically listen to a man on the Jameson drinking and reading a children's book. If not, come back next week for more reseller content. This is, I don't know if I said this is late on a Wednesday night. This is going out tomorrow. So it's a bit of late night editing, which isn't going to end well. But Fabuland Henry's Night Out. Now, these characters are, they're animals, right? So on the cover, it has this dog with a blue hat, and he's a postman carrying a horse in his backpack. They look like little Lego figures, but animals, and I don't understand where, like, the context of this yet. But the back of the book says, Fabuland is a world of its own, a world where anything can happen. The inhabitants are not ordinary people, but animals who assume human roles and who meet with all sorts of exciting and amusing adventures. Okay, so exciting adventures. This guy in the make-believe land is a postman. So I don't know how exciting this guy's life is going to be. Let's see how many pages that we have here. Oh, they don't have page numbers. Okay, well, it's not very long, right? It's not going to be a very long book. This is 1983, Henry's Night Out. Oh, God. Okay. I thought it was going to be like a couple of words on each page. It's actually like a paragraph each page. Maybe a bit less. I'd say maybe 15 pages. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just want to know why this night out has been described as weird. I swear to God, if it's not weird, we are going to go to that YouTube video and make a complaint saying, mate, you know I read this? And you'd be like, yeah, that's the point. Okay, anyway. Henry's Night Out. Should I describe the pictures or should I just read it? I think I'll just read it. Catherine Catt owns the fabulous food restaurant at the Fabuland Hotel. Catherine is a wonderful cook, which is why her restaurant is full every night of the week. Turn the page. It was Saturday, and on Saturdays, Catherine makes a very special recipe called Apple Snowball. Baked apple filled with gooey marshmallow and rolled in flakes of snowy white coconut. It was Henry Horse's favourite. He wouldn't miss a Saturday at Catherine's restaurant for anything. I think I'll go for a little walk and work up a good appetite before dinner, said Henry. First, Henry decided to visit Freddie Fox at the bakery. Henry trotted over from the big house, but the bakery was closed. After all, it was nearly dinner time. In fact, Freddie was already at the restaurant enjoying a delicious apple snowball. Henry trotted on to the fire station. "I'll visit Barty Bulldog instead," said Henry. But just then, Chief Fireman Barty drove off very fast in the Fabuland fire engine. Barty was heading for the restaurant and an early dinner. "Never mind," thought Henry. "I'll go upstairs and say hello to Chief Constable Bertie Bulldog." But Bertie had just hopped onto his motorcycle and had taken off in a cloud of dust towards the fabulous food restaurant. Bertie wanted to get there on time in case Catherine ran out of apple snowballs. So Henry walked on through the park until he came to the far side of the big lake. Thought Henry, where shall I go now? Then Henry's tummy rumbled. He was getting hungry. I had better go straight to Catherine's restaurant. But which way was the restaurant? The sun had set and it was almost dark. Henry began to get worried. "I'd better ask at the garage," he said. "Billy Bear will be able to tell me the quickest way there." But it was late and the garage was closed. Henry tried to work out where he was. If the garage is on the right and the fire station is on the left, or, let me see, if the bakery is there and the big house is here, oh dear, it's all so confusing. Henry walked down the road and up a hill until he came to the woods outside town. It was really dark now and poor Henry was lost. He didn't know which way to turn. He was tired and frightened, and most of all, hungry. Henry's tummy rumbled for an apple snowball. I wonder if Henry's description is similar to my description of what a snowball is. Then suddenly, through the trees, Henry saw Lisa Lamb's cottage. "Thank goodness," said Henry, "I can rest here for a little while. I'm sure Lisa will give me a cup of hot milk to keep me going until dinner time." Henry rushed up to the front door. Knock, knock, but there was no answer. The door was locked. "Open the door and let me in," cried Henry. Henry looked through the window, but to his dismay, Lisa wasn't inside. Poor Henry sat down and cried. In fact, he cried a whole bucket full of tears. Where could he go? The road to Fabuland was empty. There wasn't a car in sight. Down at the fabulous food restaurant, Catherine was serving the next to last apple snowball to Lisa Lamb. "I wonder why Henry's not here tonight," thought Catherine. "He's always here on Saturdays." Catherine looked down the path for her best customer, but Henry Horse was nowhere in sight. Henry Horse was far away. The nights grew colder and darker, and poor Henry began shaking with fright. He had never been this far from town before at night. He had never felt so alone. Wearily, he trotted on his way. When Henry could not go further, he leaned against a pillar box to have a rest. A pillar box! Suddenly, Henry's tears turned to smiles. He had thought of a wonderful idea. Henry reached deep into his pocket and pulled out a red Fabuland postage stamp. He licked it, and smack! Henry stuck the stamp right on his long brown nose. He had decided to post himself back to town. What the fuck? Sure enough, later that evening, Boris Bulldog came along to collect the post. "Boris," cried Henry, "I am glad to see you." "Would you please deliver me to Catherine's restaurant?" "Certainly," said Boris. "I'll take you there now." Boris picked Henry up along with the letters and postcards. He carried him right across town, past the big house, past the bakery, past the police station and the fire station until they came to a street where the air was filled with a sweet smell of marshmallows and coconut and apples. "Special delivery, Catherine," said Boris. "One hungry horse." And do you know what? Henry Horse arrived just in time for the very last apple snowball. The end. Man, what a dumb fucking book, man. What a dumb book. This cunt couldn't find his way back home, so he decided to stick himself in a mailbox, put a postage stamp on his fucking head. This is just really, really dumb. Yeah, even Hansel and Gretel had the crumbs to work their way back home, but this horse who wanted a snowball, I don't know what a snowball is. Did they even say what a snowball was? Because I'm thinking of something entirely different. He could have just stayed at the home. Where was he going? He could have just stayed at this person's house. He is a horse, so he could have slept outside and just waited for somebody to come home. He knows the way to Lisa's house, but not to his favorite restaurant. Also, is this for kids to try and teach them how to find your way back home instead of memorizing your surroundings and making sure that you're keenly aware of the direction you're heading? The message here is if you get lost, to go to a mailbox and post yourself back into town. Okay, so I guess that's Henry's night out. The reason why he was on the back of a postman was because that was his best way to get back into town. Okay, all right. Well, that was I don't know what I was expecting. It was just a kid's book. Well, I won't be reading any more of those. How long have we been going for? This is like an extra 10 minutes. Jesus Christ. All right, well, thanks. Yeah, that's the end. Enjoy your night.
Flip, 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 flip weekly.